Hello everyone, this is Tom Fox. I would like to welcome you to the Sunday Book Review. The Sunday Book Review is the series where I discuss books which impact the compliance practitioner, the legal professional, and the business professional. I hope you will enjoy this episode. The Sunday Book Review for December 19, 2021, the Bill Gates Recommends edition. These 5 books come to us from Bill Gates through an article in Fast Company. First up, a very interesting book by Walter Isaacson, The Code Breaker, Jennifer Doudna, Gene Editing and the Future of the Human Race. In 2012, biochemist Jennifer Doudna and her colleagues discovered the CRISPR tool, a form of genetic scissors that transformed the science of gene editing. This book tells the story of that scientific discovery and explains both the promise and ethical challenges, including the fact that a Chinese scientist used technology to edit the genomes of 2 human embryos against accepted scientific practice. Those children, now toddlers, will be able to pass on those altered genes. The Gates Foundation has funded several projects using CRISPR, from plant edits to survive climate change to antibodies that could kill pathogens that are currently. This book speaks to both the ethical challenges and scientific challenges. Next, 1,000 Brains, a new theory of intelligence by Jeff Hawkins. Of all the subjects I've learned about lately, this one stands out as the most mind-boggling complexity, how understanding the cells and connections in our brains give rise to the consciousness and our ability to learn. A new book by tech entrepreneur Jeff Gates talks about the better understanding of the brain. Next up, Clara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro. This is a great robot story about a robot named Clara, programmed for empathy, who acts as an artificial friend to a sick child. Think of Pinocchio for the 22nd century, and it explores while robots will be an important part of the future, this book will help us understand their role. Next up, Hamnet by Maggie. Hamnet won the National Book Critics Award for fiction this year, and it starts from a fact that William Shakespeare's son Hamnet died when he was 11. Obviously, this had a very profound effect on Shakespeare, and the story talks about how the death of his son haunts his parents, and Hamnet is a tale of how death can do so. The author cleverly ties both stories together and offers a moving explanation for how Shakespeare channeled his grief and guilt into writing. And finally, Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. Weir, the author of The Martian, has a new science fiction novel out about a high school teacher who wakes up in a different star system. The author cannot explain, or rather, Bill Gates says he can't explain why he loved the book without spoilers, but he started it on a Saturday and he finished it on a Sunday, and if that's not a great reason. But Gates started it on a Saturday and finished it on a Sunday, and if that's not a reason for a great book review, frankly, I don't know what is. Have you or a loved one been afflicted by or impacted by Lyme disease? Then I hope you will have checked out my 5-part podcast series on understanding Lyme disease with Dr. Ben Lachlan, epidemiologist and healthcare futurist, and Scott Endicott, also an epidemiologist, but also a Lyme disease sufferer. Check it out on Readings and Felicitations podcast. In this month's The Compliance Life, I'm joined by Matt Silverman, a director of trade compliance. It's our first trade compliance director on The Compliance Life. What is design thinking for compliance professionals? How can you use design thinking in compliance? This is a new podcast series I'll be premiering in October, co-hosted with Karsten Tams, where we take a look at cutting-edge social engineering strategies you can use in your compliance program. For my retrospective, I hope you will take a listen, if you haven't already, to Looking Back on 9/11, Reflections from the Compliance Perspective. It's an award-winning podcast series looking back on 9/11 some 20 years later.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.